What's up, BPTV fam? It's your boy Ant coming at you with another edition of the review. Today, as you could probably guess, it's no surprise to anybody, we're going to be going over Marvel's The Defenders. Now, this is going to be mostly non-spoilers, but there may be some things that people might consider spoilers at some point. So if you haven't watched it yet, I suggest you mark this down, save it, come back to it later. Or if you don't give a fuck like me, then whatever. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, the first thing I want to talk about is how I felt about the show overall. I'm just going to jump right into that. Overall, it was really good. Like, really good. It's probably my second favorite of the Marvel Netflix series after Daredevil season 2, and that's for good reason. The showrunners for Daredevil season 2 were actually the ones who did this and its shows. Like, everything was good, down from the pacing, the way it's shot, like just the imagery on screen, the way everything was presented on screen. It was it was it was fun to look at. They did things with colors, like as you can see, like each of the defenders have their own color scheme, and it shows on screen. So there's scenes where, like, when they're all together, there's a representation of them, not only of the defender themselves or the person themselves, but also their colors. Like, there's in the scene where Jessica Jones is being interrogated by Misty, and Matt Murdock comes in. The hue of the room is like bluish purple, but when Matt comes in, like, the door behind him is red. So obviously that's a representation of Jessica and Daredevil. Um, like I said, overall the series is I recommend it highly, but it was not without its flaws, and I'm gonna get a little bit into that later. Uh, Probably go over not each episode in depth, but kind of like give you a breeze through of how the series was laid out. It's short; it's only 8 episodes. 8 easy to watch episodes. It's not like how Iron Fist was kind of like you had to force yourself to drink that Kool-Aid. And uh, I'm happy they did that series. I just wish they handled it better. But the Defenders, it starts out, you see your boy Danny running through the sewers of some city overseas somewhere, and from then on, it's like you can tell it's a new representation of Danny Rand. It's not the old whiny I'm the Iron Fist and everyone should listen to me Danny. It's more of a seasoned, more open to suggestion Danny. Uh, the first 2 episodes, as you can probably guess, was mostly exposition. Like, each character's motivation for their eventual meetup was set up, and they did it well. Some people might think that they were a little slower, but there's got to be a story somewhere for any show to be considered good. So, and that's where most of the setup of the story was in episodes 1 and 2. From there, episode 3. Episode 3 was badass. That's when they all finally met up. That's when you get that hallway fight where in the trailer, when they're all walking down that white hallway. That's episode 3. That was not saved until the end. That was right up front, and it was marvelous. Um, you had Elektra from the beginning of the show. She was just badass, just completely badass. But that's actually one of the negative aspects of the show. Not that Elektra was badass, but she was badass, but her storyline was not all that compelling. I feel like it was just boring, not because, like, it just didn't belong in there. It just kind of like seems like they try to add a through line for Elektra for some reason that had nothing to do with the overarching story of the show. Um, it's not as it's not. There's enough good things about Elektra and her character, and the characters she interacts with, Sigourney Weaver, uh, for it to kind of cover up the fact that wasn't that great. But at the end of the day, like I said, it wasn't. It didn't take away from the show as a whole. Another thing we have is the fact that, like I said, Danny is less whiny, but it felt like they did that at the expense of Colleen Wing's character, which she was a definite bright spot in Iron Fist. And this, she's kind of been relegated to the role of the damsel, which kind of upsetting to me. But at the end of the day, it's the Iron Fist. That's the emphasis, right? The only problem with that is, like, it's kind of like shows not no there's no character growth there. So I love Colleen Wing as a character. I just want her to be badass again. She has her moments, like she's not completely helpless, but more or less she's been toned down as a character, and that's really a shame because I feel like having her at her best and a tolerable Danny Rand can do nothing but good for the series as a whole. But that's just me. Let's see. I'll check my notes. Jessica. Oh yeah. There's this scene in the beginning when they all meet up. Like it's right after that hallway scene, but it's the next episode. It's episode 4, where they're in a restaurant. That scene was intense. It was them pretty much hashing out their motivations, getting to know each other. The first time they all been together in one time. Obviously, Jessica and Luke knew each other already. Um, the other two they came about because of obviously everybody's relationship with Claire, who was another one. She had less to do in this series, but that's because the series had to focus more on the defenders than the secondary and tertiary characters. So it was good to see like familiar faces. Like you had Malcolm from Jessica Jones. You had Trish was in there. Like I said, Colleen, Foggy made a few appearances. Turk, everybody's favorite bad guy, Turk even makes an appearance. So I mean, it's good to see those familiar faces showing that continuity through the series. But like I said, the focus was on the defenders, and it wasn't for the betterment of the show. Um, Jessica and Daredevil's characters were like extra stubborn, but to an extent, like you can tell they were stubborn, but they were gonna come around. Jessica, she's always been kind of an asshole, but that's why we love her, right? Matt, on the other hand, he's just making stupid decisions just for the sake of being stupid sometimes, and that's a minor flaw of the show. But at the end of it, that had more to do with another storyline than anything. It's kind of annoying at times, but like I said, overall, there's not enough of negative to detract from the show. Uh, Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Now, they have an interesting relationship. It's more like a big brother, little brother type of relationship. It's pretty interesting. Danny Rand, obviously, being the little brother in that situation. They have a nice little fight scene. You can see that in the trailer. It's it just goes to show like each of their power levels pretty much. Danny, obviously, he's trying to fight Luke. Luke's skin is indestructible, so you can tell how that went until obviously he pulls out his Iron Fist, and then you can see the surprise on Luke's face. Let's see. Oh yeah, there was a fight in that restaurant, the same restaurant that the characters sat down in and talked, and it was a good fight. It was well choreographed. It was, the fighting in this show, obviously Daredevil 2 showrunners was well choreographed. It looked good. Everybody got their screen time. The characters, like Jessica, didn't suddenly become like an expert fighter, but she wasn't a detriment to the team either. She actually remarks to that regards. Like she at one point she's fighting, I forget who it was, and she just goes, "Am I the last person left in New York who doesn't know kung fu or karate or whatever?" When she said, and it plays to each character's strength. Obviously, Luke is more of, he's like the juggernaut. He's unstoppable. He fights that way. Um, Jessica, she has less of a fighting ability, but she's really strong. So she moves her weight around the little that she has. She throws her weight around pretty much. That's throughout the fight scenes, and it's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, Matt is probably the best fighter out of all of them. He's got the most experience in actual combat. Danny, of course, obviously being the second best fighter, and his uh, in Iron Fist was not that good of a fighter. He didn't look good on screen fighting. It was not that well choreographed. They changed that up quick in this just to make it, add to the dynamic where obviously this man is the immortal Iron Fist. He's been training all of his life, and it shows now. And that's like I said, it's for the betterment of the show. Finally, we get to see these characters the way that they are intended. Um, let's see. Karen. Karen and Foggy still annoying. For some reason, they're still mad at Matt for being the Daredevil. I don't get that. My my best friend tells me he's like a superhero. I'm not gonna be pissed at him. He lied to me. Whatever. But you're a superhero. Get out there, fight the bad guys. Like, I don't understand. You're just gonna be mad at him because for what? There's literally no reason for them to be mad at him. And that's another thing that kind of annoyed me because, why? Uh, Colleen, man, I can't get over Colleen, man. Colleen is badass, and she's supposed to be portrayed that way, but it is what it is. And some stuff happens with Misty Knight. If you're not a fan of the comic book, but you might know this already, Misty Knight has a cybernetic arm. So going into the series, she doesn't. So take that how you will. Um, and they do some weird stuff at times. Like they do play to like certain tropes. Like at one point during the final battle, Matt turns to Danny and whispers some shit in his ear. And you don't know what they say till later. And then do that whole whisper shit. I hate that. Like, oh, what did he say? And then it's some stupid shit that didn't matter to anybody. But yeah, that's like the minor shit. Overall, like I said, I'm probably gonna give this series a good 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's the second best Marvel Netflix series to me, and by far a markup from some of the other Netflix series, i.e. not Netflix, Iron Fist. Um, some people didn't like Jessica Jones as much. I love Jessica Jones as a show. Luke Cage fell off after Cottonmouth, but overall, Luke Cage was good. It definitely beats those though. So, Daredevil season 2 is the only thing that's actually better than this. So, there's that. So, tell me what you guys thought. Did you guys like it? Didn't like it? If not, tell me why in the comments down below. So.